All right, so this is my Mandalorian season 3 episode. I think this is 7. Yes, episode 7 review. And oh boy, as silly as the last episode was, this one was filled. Anyway, so we start off on what I assume is Coruscant, and it's it's nightlife. So I don't know if it was meant to be a seedier area of Coruscant or it just looks like cyberpunk. But anyway, so then we see Elia looking around pensively as if, she doesn't look suspicious at all. And this scene just confirmed what pretty much everybody already knew, that she was still working with Moff Gideon. Now, it still doesn't explain who um, who saved Moff Gideon, how he got off the. We just know it was Mandalorians, and I put that in quotes because some people think that it could have been a setup, and others like me understand that bad Mandalorians exist, but nothing was said of that at all. Actually, Elia didn't seem shocked at all. She was actively giving information, giving intel to Moff Gideon. So God knows when she knew that he was out. We don't know when he got out, how long he'd been out. Did she know before she entered the amnesty program? We don't know any details. But so she tells Moff Gideon what happened on Navarro. And he's like, what the fuck? So that also um, confirms Carson Tifa's suspicions that the pirate attack and the Imperial remnants are working together. And so Moff Gideon's like, wait a minute, what's going on? I thought you said the New Republic weren't going to do anything. She's like, yeah, it was the Mandalorians. Okay, which ones? Bo-Katan and Din Djarin and their groups. And Moff is like, ugh. Gideon's like, oh my god, really? I thought they hated each other. What is happening? So he's like, alright, whatever. Well, thanks, I guess. And cuts off the communique and goes to a meeting in progress where we see different, as one of them puts it, warlords of the Imperial remnants, and one of them saying how, oh, we have supporters on every planet, which I do not doubt. Maybe they do have supporters on every planet because, there's got to be something to fascism that is appealing to people, because even in this world, you see people that you would never expect to be fascists to be fascists. So, yeah, I can totally believe that they have supporters on every planet, but they also have plenty of people who think that punching Nazis is a fun pastime. So, just to say that you have supporters on every planet is not the flex you think it is, because you also have plenty of people who hate you. But anyway, so they're talking about what to do and how to get together, and one of them brings up Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, I've heard this name before. I first heard it when Ahsoka asked about Grand Admiral Thrawn in what was it, last season? And I've learned a bit more about who Grand Admiral Thrawn is, but again, like I've mentioned before, I don't watch the animation projects, so I only have gotten bits and pieces as to who he is. But Moff Gideon just points out, where is this Grand Admiral Thrawn? I don't see him. Now, from what I understand, he's really, really good at being on the DL. He's really good about nobody knowing his whereabouts. So Moff Gideon thinks that, oh, I'm the best at keeping secrets. I'm the best ever. Nobody can pull one over on me because I'm able to find out any information I want whenever I want it. Which is going to end up biting him in the ass. You just know that. He is going to get his ass handed to him, whether it's Grand Admiral Thrawn himself, or maybe just simply the Mandalorians, or somebody else. He's gonna get his ass handed to him. And it's going to be so delicious because he's so full of himself. Giancarlo Esposito plays him so well. I've always loved him. The actor, that is. Anyway. So he asks for more security. And so everyone thinks that Moff is just full of himself, which is true. Gideon is full of himself. But they think he's just full of himself and he just wants Praetorian guards because he needs more protection from the Mandalorians. Because he now knows, and Gideon now knows that the Mandalorians want to retake Mandalore. So that's what he gleaned from Elias saying that Din Djarin's covert and Bo-Katan have teamed up. He's figured it out. He knows that they're going to try to retake Mandalore. So he asks for help, and among them are 3 Praetorian guards. Which I didn't think much of at the time because, okay. But remember, this episode is called The Spies. So, at the time, you don't think anything of it, but I am very vigilant as to who these spies are going to be. And I'm thinking maybe it's the armor, because I've been hearing about her helmet that it signifies that she used to be a follower of Darth Maul, that she used to be one of the Maldonorians. Oh my god, I cannot speak at all. And so I'm thinking maybe the armor was going to turn out to be a spy, but no, something much, much better happened. And much better is that I kind of like the armor. I've always liked her, so it would have sucked if it was discovered that she was the spy. But then we move to Navarro, and Grief Karga's protocol droid is freaking the hell out because I think it's a she. I think it's a she. It could be a he. I'm not sure now. But the protocol droid is freaking out because this Imperial fighter, I think he thought it was, is coming. And so Grief Karga is standing outside and looking up, and it's like, that's a light cruiser. How in the world are you a protocol droid and you don't know your Imperial ships? I'm sorry, what? Is it that decommissioned that they don't know what it is? But anyway. So he goes, oh, and look at the insignia, look at the emblem, which is the mythosaur. So he knows that it's Mandalorians, it's all good. So he goes to greet their new guests, which is, of course, the Night Owl Mandalorians. And they all disembark. The Death Watch Mandalorians walk up and are looking, I guess, menacing, because I guess in those helmets you can't look anything but menacing. And they're watching everybody disembark, including Bo-Katan. Everybody but Bo-Katan are wearing their helmets. And everybody looks like they have this standoff going on. I'm like, really? Is this how this is going to go? That they're going to immediately start trying to kill each other? But no, the armor, basically rings a bell that says, okay, all the Mandalorians are accounted for. Let's get down to business, which is retaking Mandalore. So Bo-Katan is giving a speech and saying how this is how we're going to retake Mandalore. This is what we have to do. I need volunteers. And we see nothing. I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of saw this coming, that nobody's going to volunteer. And I think it turned into more of a nobody wanted to be the first, which is odd for a group of people that pride themselves on being warriors. I mean, the Klingons would hold these people in utter contempt. Because you know that the Klingons would be jumping over themselves, even though they were opposite um, opposite groups. They would be throwing themselves at the opportunity to, die an honorable death. I mean, they do have the saying, today is a good day to die. So yeah, they would be just so horribly disappointed in the Mandalorians, as I am, because what the hell? And yes, I know I'm mixing Star Trek with Star Wars. Anyway, so um everybody so Din is the first one to say, I'll go, and so will Grogu. And I'm just like, wait, you're volunteering your kid? And now because let's face it, in these missions, Grogu is the only child that goes. Now, granted, this is not your typical child, because he is strong in the Force, but he's still a baby. And considering what happened earlier, which after this I will go back and say what happened with Grogu, I just found that just I just find that odd. I really do. So, and then Paz Vizsla first it was, is her name Koska? She also signs up, and Ace signs up, and then Paz, and then all the other Mandalorians left and right are volunteering. But it was just so weird. You would think that a warrior culture would be, and finally the armor, and I don't know, you'd think that a warrior culture would be more enthusiastic about volunteering for these things. Especially the armor. I mean, it was kind of, she's pushing Bo-Katan to do this. You'd think that she'd be more, oh, I don't know, willing to volunteer for these things, but she was the last. So, but before this happened, Grief Karga greets Din, which was very bizarre because he acted like they'd been gone for so long, so maybe this whole trip did take a while. but he made it sound like they hadn't seen each other, even though Mandalorians were back to living on Navarro. But anyway, so he takes Din and Grogu to his office because he has another surprise, and Din's like, you don't need to keep giving me surprises, and this one is for Grogu. So here comes IG-11, who's now IG-12, walking extremely stiff. Very, very stiff. I mean, even more stiff than what he did before. So it turns out that and Zelen is piloting him. The memory circuit is gone, so I assume that plot is completely and utterly dropped now. The memory circuit is gone, and this is meant to be a mecha suit for Grogu. So the Anzellan crawls out, and you realize just how tiny the Anzellan is, because Grogu is very tiny, and the Anzellan makes him look big. So he climbs out, and Grogu gets up all excited because number one, mecha suit, and number two, cute little Anzellan. And the Anzellan's like, bad baby, stay away, no squeezy. It's like, okay, Anzellans don't like hugs. Too bad. Grogu apparently looks like he can do hugs really well. So Din is like, no. He's too young. He's too little to operate machinery. And this is the second episode in a row that Grogu vetoes Din. Because remember, he is very much a baby, but for his species, he's a baby, but he's 50 years old. He's 50-something years old. I mean, he's my age right now. So he's, even though in many ways he's a baby, he's still, he's trained in the Force. He's not a helpless child. So he then, when Din says that, no, you can't do this, and so at this point he can only say yes or no with the IG-12, and he kept saying no, 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 which is a callback to how toddlers normally are, which is they find a word, usually the first one being no, and saying it ad nauseum. A combination of saying no ad nauseum and also just, the way babies are when they get a new toy. They annoy the hell out of you. So, he keeps saying no, and Grape's like, you mean you are old enough to operate machinery? Yes. So this is obviously their workaround as to how they're going to get Grogu to talk. Instead of trying to figure out how to get the lips to move to make it obvious that he's talking, as opposed to just puppet speak. And they don't have to worry about that, and I think it's still Taika Waititi's voice. So we still get Taika Waititi's voice, but Grogu's speaking. So he's walking around and he's slowly getting the hang of working the controls. Didn't take him long, even though he almost did knock over the bust of Greef Karga, which I'm still shocked that he has a bust of himself in his office. So he almost knocks that over because they obviously fixed it after the protocol droid used it to crush IG-11. And he's got the hang of it. And so Din's like, okay, fine. You can tell he's so not not happy about this. So he goes out and they're walking down the market and he just keeps saying yes, 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 yes. I'm like, oh my god, please make it stop. This is driving me insane. Poor Din. But just like a good parent, even though everybody else is probably seriously annoyed with this kid, Din is just completely ignoring him. So he's quickly figured out the parenting thing, even though everyone else seems to be um over overruling his decisions. But I actually was with Din. Maybe this isn't a good idea to give to a baby, even though he is a special baby, because he's still childlike. Granted, Yoda was still childlike and he was 900, so they never completely get over that. But so he decides that he's going to use IG-11 to get himself food so people don't have to feed him. Unfortunately, he forgot the part about you gotta pay. And Din lets him know about that. And so it's like, oh, my yummies were taken away, so I'm gonna grab this one. And so God knows how much money Din ended up spending on this kid because he just kept grabbing food. And I guess that shouldn't be a surprise that that's what Grogu used the mecha suit for. And so they're walking along, and then we get the scene of him volunteering Grogu to join them on this mission, which again, he's the only kid that is being allowed on this mission. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't, because on the one hand, it's Grogu, which made what ended up happening on the planet so much more disappointing for me. But anyway, so they have their party. They go aboard the ship and they have a scout group, which I don't know. The armorer was with them. Never mind. Which included all the people who said that they would volunteer. So maybe that's why they didn't want to be boring old scouts. They wanted to, go out in a blaze of glory. Maybe. So they go down to the surface and they start exploring, and they're looking for the Great Forge. Which I'm surprised that when Din and Bo-Katan were traversing the mines, traversing the whole underground, that they didn't come across it. But I guess it's vast, so after they land, what looks like a ship approaches them. And we see 3 people. And immediately my heckles went up because this episode's called The Spies, and these 3 people just showed up out of nowhere as if they were living on Mandalore this whole time. Now, a part of me was like, well, that spider droid was feasting on something down there. So, that spider creature, so maybe. But no, they were spies. So, now you showed those 3. But Bo-Katan was like, yeah, not all of these people can come with us because they're too weak to continue. So there's probably more that they just sent up to the main ship. And So they finally paid off Grogu in the mecha suit because Paz Vizsla and Ace are playing chess and they're arguing over the rules. And it doesn't surprise me that, the rules evolved, that one tribe evolved rules that the other tribe did not. I that makes sense. Just like everything else, once you're away from each other for a while, things like that evolve, so okay. But Ace decides to call them primitives because that works well. Oh, Ace, you dumbass. Anyway, so Paz decides them's fighting words, which, yeah. So he threatens Ace. I'm like, oh god. Yeah, even Bo-Katan's like, yeah, this it was only a matter of time before this happened. And so they have this fight, and Din's like, should I intervene? And she's like, neither side can intervene. So I figured that there is one side that can intervene, and his name is Grogu. Because so far he's not on either side, because I'm pretty sure that just like he's not a Jedi, even though he's strong in the Force, he left the Jedi Order, he's never going to become an actual Mandalorian. Or at least not the way either side sees a Mandalorian. So, he finally uses his mecha suit, puts his hands on both of them, and says no. And once again, Bo-Katan says, you taught your apprentice well. And he's like, not me. This seems to be a running joke that every time people are going to praise Din for something Grogu does, he's like, yeah, had nothing to do with that. Because, I mean, this is a 50-year-old creature. He had years of experience with the Jedi. Not necessarily Luke, but he's had experience, and you can tell he's a very empathetic person. He doesn't want people to hurt others. And unless you piss him off, in which case the gloves are off. Yeah, you don't want to piss off the baby. But so that's taken care of, and I can't remember if the feast came before or after this. So they are having a feast, which you wonder, how is that possible? Because I highly doubt they brought a feast, and these guys are supposedly just hiding from Imperials for I don't know how many years. So yeah, okay. And they explain about what had happened, and Bo-Katan finally tells us how Moff Gideon ended up with the Darksaber. She says she surrendered, and that she was even though she knew that Moff Gideon couldn't be trusted, she was hoping to help her people, keep her people alive. And of course, Moff Gideon did what everyone expected, which is double cross her, and then the purge happened. So she blames herself, which isn't wrong, but then again, did she have a choice? So that's how we ended up with the Darksaber. So not exactly honorable combat. So she's standing by herself, and Din is being so sweet, saying that I will follow you, Lady Kryze, until your song is sung, which basically means until she dies, until her story is over. And you could see it in her eyes. She was so appreciative of him, even though she's like, yeah, I was being selfish. No, no, you weren't. How are you being selfish? You were trying to keep your people alive. It didn't work. But how is that selfish? I guess she was just trying to meet Din halfway, that he said something nice. So she wanted to be nice herself by criticizing something she did that, oh no, 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 you're coming around to me, but in many ways you were right too. So she just wanted to extend that olive branch, I guess, but it made no sense. So then as they're traveling, they get attacked by a monster because there's just something about Mandalorians that have to be attacked by a freaking monster. And before the attack though, she goes, "Without the dark saber, how am I going to lead the people?" And I'm just waiting for someone to remind her of the frickin' mythosaur she saw. Because Din even said, we don't give a shit about the dark saber. It means nothing to us. And yeah, tell him about the damn mythosaur. Come on. Why isn't anyone reminding her that she saw a freaking mythosaur? Whom we have a certain Grogu who could like tame it for you. Because he's really, really good about taming animals. He's awesome with that. So, like I said, there was a attack by a monster. And so everyone quickly has to abandon ship. And Din grabs Grogu and, gets him off the ship. And I'm just like, excuse me, can't he like force sleep with the IG in the IG mecha suit? But he's a baby. There's all sorts of stressors going on. So okay, fine. So they all manage to escape, and because they're taking them to the Great Forge. And I'm just like, oh, I don't like this at all. So they go to the Great Forge, and everyone is happy, except for, well, I shouldn't say everyone's happy. They're sad when they see the result of the Great Forge because it's totally destroyed. And Ace even said, "This is what's left of the Great Forge." So maybe that's why Din didn't realize he knew where the Great Forge was. It didn't look like a Great Forge. But so they're figuring out what to do. And Din hears jetpacks. So they're like, jetpacks? What? Well, you guys survived, so there's probably survivors here. And no, it's an attack. They were they walked into an ambush. And those 3 survivor Mandalorians completely disappeared. And so they're fighting all these what looks like stormtroopers. A combination of stormtrooper Mandalorians. Or at least they were wearing Mandalorian armor. So, I should say Beskar, not Mandalorian armor. It didn't look anything like Mandalorian armor, but definitely Beskar. And so they're fighting, and so they run, and they're like, where are we? And they end up captured in this, I'm gonna call it a foyer because there are doors on both sides. So they're stuck except for Din, who got separated from the rest of the group. And Grogu is an unhappy Grogu because Din is stuck on the other side, and he's making great use of his flamethrower, trying to destroy the guards, and not happening. So Moff Gideon comes in. Oh joy. He flies in, and he's being his usual smug ass self. And he wants Bo-Katan to give him the Darksaber because it's rightfully his, because reasons. And I guess because of the same technicality that gave her back the Darksaber to begin with. Which, how the hell did he know she had the Darksaber? Because Elia had no reason to know that she had the Darksaber. All she knew was that Din and Bo were working together. But for some reason he knew that she had the Darksaber. And I am just waiting at this point, during this whole fight scene, for Grogu to do something. I mean, he's still learning how to use the mecha suit, but he still has the frickin' Force. Do something. Force push, choke. I do not care at this point. Do something. And because my understanding of the Force is you do not have to be in the same room. You know, that it's an unimpeded direct line to whomever you want to hurt. My understanding of the Force is just because he's in that with the heavy doors in his way, my understanding is he could still use the damn Force. So, yeah, this disappointed me greatly. Especially since Bo could have, given him permission or something. But it's your dad. Your dad is being attacked. Do something, Grogu. I was waiting for Bo-Katan, somebody to say something to him. I mean, Bo-Katan understands the Force. Paz knows about the Darksaber and that his ancestor forged it, but I don't think he fully understands the Jedi. So I didn't expect Paz to do anything, but Bo-Katan does. Bo-Katan knows that Grogu is strong in the Force, and it's your dad. So I was so disappointed in Grogu. I understand he's a baby, but at least give him a prompt. Come on. Do something. So, while Moff Gideon was giving his speech, she takes the Darksaber and opens up a passage so people can get out. Now, obviously those doors that were used to keep them in or keep them out obviously are made from a different material, different metal than the one that she used to create the hole, because why not use that to come after Moff Gideon and his forces? So Moff Gideon has them raise the gate. And while he's doing that, Bo-Katan is leading her forces away. Except for Paz Vizsla. Paz says, you guys go. There's too many of them. I'm going to hold them off. Which, on the one hand, good for Paz to go out in a blaze of glory. But at some points, why not run with them and close that gate behind you so they can't follow you? Or at least you're giving yourself some I can't word today. Some advanced, oh God, what is the word I'm looking for? That you would have a head start. And And instead, he's just taking down as many of these guards as he can, which he's like, yeah, I might be going down. You guys are coming down with me. Again, and also, he has a kid at home. And I'm just wondering if this means that Din is going to become a father of two all of a sudden. That it's going to be Grogu and now Ragnar are going to be in his charge. So, and then there's the question of what about Din? Who's going to rescue Din? But I guess that this is a reverse of last season where they had to rescue Grogu. Now they have to rescue Din. And like I said, you don't want to piss off Grogu. So I'm sure once he gets over the sads of his dad being taken away, he's gonna get mighty pissed. And oh boy, all I can say is I do not want to be Moff Gideon when Grogu decides to unleash his full force on him. Because he's not going to be honorable. Not at all. He's going right after Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon is in so much trouble. So, at least I hope that's what Grogu does, and that's what he should do, because this is his dad. And maybe Ragnar will help out because, Ragnar now has a reason to go all ballistic on their asses. Because they just killed his dad. Whether it's his biological father or he was a foundling, he saw him as his father. So, yeah, those guys are in trouble. Two very pissed off children, and one of them strong in the Force. Yeah, this is not going to end well for Gideon. So, it ends with these three people in red suits, and I'm like, are those the Praetorian Guards? Looked it up. Yes, those are indeed the Praetorian Guards. And I will bet you anything that those three Mandalorians that they rescued were in fact the Praetorian Guards. Because like I said, they totally disappeared during this whole fight. And so they deal the death blow to Paz Vizsla. Rest in peace, Paz. And when the camera first panned back to him, I thought that he would, somehow still be alive, like playing dead or something, waiting for them to leave, and then he would, limp off or something. But no. And all I can think of as to why they decided to do this to Paz was, first off, they probably wanted to keep Ragnar, and they didn't want Paz to take off his helmet because he was voiced by Jon Favreau, and they probably didn't want to put Jon Favreau in the armor, and they didn't want to put someone else in the armor and have him walk around and then having to just dub Jon Favreau's voice or something. They probably figured it was easier just kill him off. Because I do believe that by the end, at least Ragnar is going to say, yeah, I'm just going to take off my helmet now. I'm not going by this crazy ways. And I've heard people suggest that the armorer is also going to take off her helmet at some point. And it's possible. I still don't it's not that I don't completely trust the armor, but I just still find her change of heart, her reverse course with Bo-Katan still very abrupt. Maybe in universe it wasn't that abrupt. Maybe there was some time. And like I said, also that she understood that Bo really did see a mythosaur, and maybe that changed her whole thinking. But I don't know, just something doesn't sit right with me. Maybe I'm too paranoid. But anyway, one episode left, so they have to rescue Din. We now know that they do not have Dr. Pershing's cloning experiments and that his results were lost. So it sounds like not only did, like Moff Gideon mentioned at the meeting, did he think, did he not care about the cloning plot, but it sounds like he made it so Dr. Pershing has no interest in cloning, and so what knowledge he gained is completely lost because it went poof in the mind flare. Because it was never explained how much memories did Dr. Pershing lose. So it's entirely possible that he might not have any knowledge when we see him. If we see him again, he'll have absolutely no knowledge of any cloning plot. That he won't know anything about cloning. So, yeah. Apparently that's how they ended the Dr. Pershing storyline. So maybe we won't see him again. Maybe we won't see Elia again. I'm still hoping that the Mind Flayer works. It's not so much that your memories are uploaded to the Mind Flayer as some people think, but it's just a mental block, and that a certain Jedi baby will unlock those memories, and Dr. Pershing will remember that Elia turned on him, and that's how Elia gets hers. Because initially I thought, well, because she said she had no choice in what she ended up doing, I thought that there was a redemption arc for her, but so far, except for that one line, I'm not seeing anything that says redemption. So we have to find out, we have to save Din. We need to retake Mandalore and possibly see Grand Admiral Thrawn. To, if for no other reason, put the fear of God in Moff Gideon. Because only two people who've been mentioned on or have been on this show could put the fear of God in Moff Gideon. Thrawn, basically, if nothing else by reputation, and Grogu, because he's seen what Grogu can do when he's super pissed. And he's a lot stronger than he was when Moff Gideon saw him super pissed. So, yeah, one or both of those two are going to seriously make Moff Gideon's life a living hell. And at this point, I don't care which one. I'm leaning towards Grogu, though. I want Grogu to save Daddy. And we also have to figure out what's going to happen to Ragnar. Or they're just going to drop him. I hope not. I hope that, just like Paz, during the fight, Paz and Ace basically put aside their differences and worked together. I hope that Ragnar and Grogu become a team. That would be awesome to be, team child. team child going around and helping their parents. Well, parent now, since Paz is now dead. But yeah, I'm really hoping that they end up working together. Let's see. I don't believe I have anything else on this episode. And this video is probably taking longer than the actual episode. So, with that, I will see you guys next time.